You have to go now. Tom Hanks has seen your audition tape, and he's having second thoughts.
Cancel
Culture
Podcast.
Hi, everyone. Welcome back to Cancel Culture, the podcast where we talk about cancelable things, taboo things. I don't know. It's gone off the rails lately, but we always try to not get canceled. And in the making, we tried to not get my old white dad canceled. But this week, we're trying not to get our special guest canceled. Drum roll, please. Please welcome to Cancel Culture, Connor Ratliff.
Hello.
Hey.
Thank you for having me.
Are you excited to take this risk with us?
I am. Yeah, I'm a little scared, but I think fear is healthy in this day and age.
Fear is healthy.
Yeah.
Yeah, like Dr. Oz always said, you know.
Yeah, be afraid. Be afraid.
We're quoting Dr. Oz now.
I don't know.
Cool. Not a real doctor.
Well, you know, we're not really into health. Connor, have you ever come close to being canceled?
I'm sure I must have. I mean, the very fact that I'm not aware of it betrays an obliviousness that seems ripe for cancellation, you know? Like, it's always the people who are like, what'd I say?
Lack of self-awareness is usually the first warning sign that you're going to get canceled at some point.
I'm sure that, I mean, thankfully, so much of my work in comedy has been in the most ephemeral and unpreserved of mediums, improv, which means that I'm sure there are things, because comedy is always changing, that I know there are times when a year has passed and I've remembered something I did a year earlier and thought like, oh, well, I wouldn't do that now. But I think that's more just staying slightly ahead of that.
But that's self-aware. I think I have known you a little while. You strike me as someone who's incredibly self-aware. In fact, I would argue you may be too self-aware.
Maybe.
You're omniscient. You're always.
I mean, you give a very wholesome vibe. You know, I wouldn't cancel you. So it's yet to be determined. We'll see how you do today.
We'll see.
But that kind of leads us to our next question is we kind of take on the mindset that canceling people isn't really what we're here to do. You know, we're more here to have the conversations about topics that might scare people, but kind of allow that leeway to learning that we feel like has been zapped out of the zeitgeist as of late.
Yeah, wonderful. I'm not someone who, I actually get really annoyed whenever I hear people in comedy or who are, you know, sometimes leaving comedy in a huff saying you can't be funny anymore. Because I sort of always, my philosophy is that, like, you have to be funny. I mean, this isn't even a philosophy, it's just a fact. If you want to be a funny person, you pretty much have to be funny in the time that you are living. If you want to experience what it feels like to be a funny person.
Right.
There's no good saying like, oh, I would have been really funny during the Renaissance, or, you know, I would have been great on vaudeville or whatever. That's just too bad. You're you know, like, we have no way of knowing.
Yeah.
And so you have to change with the times. There are things that are legitimately funny one year, and then a year later they're not funny. And sometimes it's for very significant reasons, and sometimes it's just the wave moves past, and it's, you know, it's comedy's like it's like the tide, you know, it goes in, it goes out. It's not always in the same place, you know.
Do you feel that, I mean, again, there's people who say you can't be funny anymore because of the woke police, because, and by the way, the woke police station is just down the street from my apartment. Yeah, good donut, great donut.
It's the conservative synagogue across the street.
But I don't feel like there's a topic you can't touch. You just have to be, not mindful. You just have to write really good comedy that, to your point, fits within the context of the time versus like old timey make America funny again.
Yeah, I think that everything that's funny has like a cost to it. Like, you know, when you go into like a Chuck E. Cheese or someplace that has like prizes, like a carnival, and they have, you know, the prizes that are like one ticket, And then there are prizes that are like, oh, that's like 1,000 tickets. Like, I'd never have enough. I think there are jokes that like, or topics where I'm like, I can make a joke about that topic, but it would have to be 1,000 tickets funny. And there are some things where I'm like, I would never be able to think of a joke funny enough to be able to do this topic, you know?
Using that analogy, is there any comic you feel like is that type of like annoying kid that you bring to the fair that's just like, well, how much does it cost to just buy that prize? I don't want to cash the tickets. I just want to, like, what if I just purchase it?
Yeah.
Who's the one that you think gets away with just kind of jumping that line or that work to get the tickets?
I don't know. There are people who are just so charming that they get away with it. Actually, I'll tell you, this isn't a comedian, but I'll tell you an example of a joke. It's the most impressive joke I think I've ever heard a politician tell, and I think it fits into this, which is Joe Biden, I think 2007 presidential debate. Giuliani is, I think, a front runner in the Republican campaign at this point. Somebody brings up Giuliani in a debate, and Joe Biden says, Rudy Giuliani, every sentence out of his mouth is just a noun, a verb, and 9/11. That joke is so good. Now, he told that joke 6 years after 9/11, so not much time had passed.
16.
And he got, no, I'm saying this was 2007 when he told that joke. No, 2007. That's part of what makes it such a good joke. It is less than a decade since 9/11. He, a politician, made a 9/11 joke that he got no flack for. Nobody came after him for it. No Democrats, no Republicans, because everyone was like, it's both true.
That's not true.
Yeah.
It's true, and it's funny, and it's like also like ballsy to tell that joke. Like to risk telling a joke about such a potentially offensive thing. But it's like the joke is so good.
Gilbert Gottfried's 9/11 joke got him canceled. Got him fired from Affleck.
But it was like 2 days after 9/11. His timing was abysmal.
It was.
Five
It's still a
seconds
very
since the tires
funny joke.
came out.
But
Yeah.
We'll try it again.
R.I.P.
Yeah.
While we have a break here in the moment, I just want to go around and kind of circle back to introducing everybody here. So I'm Jamie. I was gonna mention, because you brought up a game show or carnivals, and yesterday I went to McDonald's for the first time in like 6 years, and I was that kid that just wanted to buy the toy because they have Guardians of the Galaxy Happy Meal toys. But I don't need the little milk thing. I don't need, I just wanted my McFlurry and I wanted a toy. And we asked thinking they would just maybe give it to us. And that was entitled of us. It cost $1. And I got one.
So you can buy it. You can buy it without
confirmed here though. You can buy a McDonald's Happy Meal toy just on its own. It rocks. It's tail wags.
Good to know.
I wonder how often they get that question. I bet you the manager was just like, that's what Paul just said. Yeah. Pocketed that money. Manager's like, yeah, $1.
Exactly. They didn't even bring it in. Anyway, so that's my intro for today. Elena.
Hi, I'm Elena. And I just learned today that I'm now going to get my porn for free on Twitter. So that's where I'll be heading.
Yeah.
Instead of subscribing.
Yeah, so Pornhub's going to go out of business.
Yeah. I'm excited for that. And also something about orcas. Excited to talk about that today too.
Connor, did you hear about this, that Twitter is just porn now?
No. I hadn't heard of that.
Are you still on Twitter?
I am still on Twitter. I did look someone up on Twitter by name and got the wrong person. And the wrong person who had the same name, the video was just straight up them pointing the camera at their naked vagina. It was just like, oh, this is not the person I'm looking
Anarchy.
for. And it was just like,
well, you actually don't know that it wasn't the person. For all you knew, it could have been just a different part of them than you were looking for.
You're right. I don't know, but I strongly suspect it was not this person, because it was literally, someone who had reached out to me and said, asked a podcast question, and I looked up their name and I typed in their name exactly, and the first one that came up, I clicked on it, and that was the tweet. And then I saw, the second person that came up, that was the person. So, and I thought this does feel like this is what Twitter is now.
Yeah, the Wild West. Yeah, for sure.
I was saying that the word squirt was trending today, and I thought it was going to be some double entendre, something funny. No, it was porn. It was just porn.
But it was trending under sports.
Yeah, well, it is a sport if you're doing it right.
I will also say the person who it was just that video, they had Twitter Blue, and the real person was unverified.
Right.
Great.
Welcome to the new Twitter. Right. Exactly.
Yeah.
Great.
Mariana.
Hi. I'm Mariana. I graduated a couple of days ago.
Yay!
Congratulations.
That's my intro. I don't know what else to say.
How do you feel to be entering the world as a recent graduate in a world with porn anarchy?
Today, it hadn't hit me that I had graduated, but today I was just like kind of full of existential dread for some reason.
That's age appropriate. Yeah, that's normal. Don't worry about it.
Oh my God, like what now? Like I don't know what I'm doing.
Yep.
Like
welcome
what am
to your 20s
now?
You're killing it. You're absolutely killing it. By the way, NYU grad, Connor, NYU grad, yeah?
No. I graduated from the Liverpool Institute for Performing Arts in Liverpool, England.
Oh,
really?
Wow.
Yeah. I did 2 years at the University of Missouri Columbia as a drama on a drama scholarship, and then I dropped out of there and flew to England and did a 3-year bachelor's degree there.
Damn.
But I've walked around NYU. I've seen it.
Well, no, we met.
We
met through a mutual acquaintance who went to NYU, so I just automatically assumed.
Yeah, you got to remap your whole imagining of what my youth was.
They were just friends in real life.
And actually, by the way, he's a former student of mine, as is Mariana.
Yeah.
There you go. So, Mariana,
Evan,
what?
By the way.
No, we don't introduce you.
Okay, cool.
It's not important. Mariana, though, I want to know, because I want to hear everybody's. What were you most fearful of having to do for the first time post graduation? For me, it was paying taxes. Because I feel like I hadn't really dealt with that till post college.
Well, you paid taxes before, but it's fine. Okay, go ahead.
Under the table jobs I had been.
That's not good to admit to on a live camera, but okay.
You know, I have a guy in the IRS. Mariana, what are you most fearful of?
Like post graduation life?
Yeah.
Like staying in this country?
That is a valid fear.
It's a valid fear.
We're gonna find you a sponsor. We're gonna
get you sponsored. Actually, if we could run an ad under this right now, we're looking for a sponsor for
this
woman.
Yeah, you could do like copywriting or something.
Sponsor this Mexican.
Always, seriously. Publishing houses always have sponsorship.
Yeah, just like actually like doing, like having some job somewhat related to what I studied, because I feel like I hear a lot about
Nair. You don't want to be deported. You want a job in what you love. Like, what the fuck?
I know. I'm asking.
How entitled are you?
The bar is very high.
I'm asking for a lot, Evan. I know.
What? How much time do you have till they throw you out of the country?
I have a year.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
So much time.
So I shouldn't call INS for a couple months.
Hey.
Yeah.
Okay, and Evan, this is why we write the script for you.
Yeah, this is why Evan's
that's why you get canceled.
Can we run an ad if someone wants to make me?
No, you can't admit to that.
Admit it.
We'll track it back.
No.
Yeah.
Cut that.
No,
Jesse,
stop
that
putting
part
things
there?
on camera that are illegal.
No.
Connor, what were you most fearful of post grad? Well, because did you move back here after graduating, or?
I lived in England for a few years after that. It was interesting because the school that I went to, it was the school where Paul McCartney went when he was a kid. It's where he met George Harrison, and the building had fallen apart basically, and he put in millions of pounds into turning it into a performing arts academy. And so they were looking for international students. I was in their first graduating class.
Oh.
And so I assumed wrongly, because they had gone around and they'd come to America and held auditions, and they were looking for people to make it an international school.
Right.
And it wasn't until I was almost done with the first year and I asked someone, so, because everything was sort of targeted at like, well, when you're done here, you'll go down to London and be an actor. And I was like, how do I work here when I'm done? Like, do you guys like sign a thing that'll help me or whatever? And they were like, no, you'll just have to move back to America. And I panicked because I was like, well, now I've wasted a year of my life on a school that I'm going to go back to New York. No one's going to have heard of this place. And then they're like, well, do you have any relatives that are like, where are your parents from? I'm like, well, my mom's from Ireland. She was born in Ireland. They're like, oh, you can just get your citizenship.
You're automatically a citizen, yeah.
And I literally like took some photos, sent away, and I got back a passport, an Irish passport, in like 8 weeks. At the time, this was pre 9/11.
Pre 9/11, yeah.
It was so easy to just be like, yeah, here, we believe you. It's yeah. But I do. It's funny when you say one of your fears being about staying in the country, because I still have that as a fear. Not that I'll be deported, but I am kind of afraid to stay in America because it's like a terrifying place now.
And for everybody on this podcast, that is a terrifying thought.
Yeah, but as far as I think the main thing, one of the main things that I fear was just like finding a place to live and then having to move once I was in a place was a constant. Like I still have that. I've lived in the same apartment since like 2007.
Wow.
And part
You're
of that
in New
is,
York?
yeah, and part of that is just because I'm so terrified of just the process of finding a new place and moving things, and it's just like I think about it all the time. Like I'll have to move eventually.
Is it rent stabilized?
It's stable enough, like by the modern standard
that's what my therapist says about me, but I don't buy it.
That's what they stamp on the little card that they give you after each.
The antipsychotics meds,
stable enough,
come with that.
Sane.
Yeah.
Ish.
Sane-ish.
Actually, so Connor has one of my favorite cancel. So Connor has been canceled.
No.
And yeah, absolutely. By the world's nicest man. And a podcast that he turned it into a podcast, which I became obsessed with. And we knew each other pretty well for a minute, and then we fell out of each other's lives, as it happens. And then he went on to make this crazy ass podcast. Fuck you, podcast.
So good.
I called you out of the blue on Friday.
Oh, he did. He called me
just to say hello.
Just to say hi.
And her boyfriend was there, and I got no time. So,
relatable.
But so you have this podcast that I became absolutely obsessed with, called Dead Eyes, which was about the time the nicest man in the world canceled you out of a job in a great television show. I don't think the ladies here.
Yeah, tell us this story.
No. I'm a big fan. I've listened to all of it, guys. But yes, tell us the story.
I'll try to tell the shortest possible version because I've told it a million times now.
I'm sorry for making you tell it again. But
no. It's what I'm here to do in this life, is to tell this story. I was in London working as an actor. They were auditioning for like the small parts in, like they'd cast all the main parts out of like LA, but they needed to cast.
Name the show real quick.
In Band of Brothers, the HBO miniseries, executive produced by Steven Spielberg and Tom Hanks. That was sort of their big follow-up to Saving Private Ryan. And at the time, the biggest television production that had ever been attempted. And of course, there's a million little parts, and they cast those parts locally. So you're a local hire, because otherwise they don't want to fly someone across the world to have them say 3 lines.
Well, so your Irish passport is the main reason you got this audition.
Yeah, a big part of why I booked the part that I booked was because, I'm going up against, British actors who are doing an American accent. I'm auditioning. I just have the accent. So it's just like an effortless casting. It's just like, this guy can be the guy who gets the coffee. He says it. It doesn't sound like, hey, I'm going to get you some coffee. It doesn't sound like someone straining to sound American. So I booked this little part, and I'm so excited. And then the news just keeps getting better and better, because then I find out that episode 5 is going to be directed by Tom Hanks. So I'm like, this couldn't be better. Couldn't be more, like everything's going my way.
Wow.
And then the day before I was supposed to start filming. And I was going to have all these scenes with Damian Lewis. I was basically played his like orderly, like his ensign, the person who's like coming in, giving him his papers and walking out of the room again.
Yeah.
And I get a frantic call from my agent's office, and this assistant says, oh my God, you have to get to London. You have to get to Hatfield Studios where they're filming right away. I'm like, oh no, I'm going to be getting on a train later this afternoon. Like, no, you have to go now. Tom Hanks has seen your audition tape, and he's having second thoughts. He thinks you have dead eyes. And so I was in Liverpool. I had to get on a train. It's like 3.5 hours to get down to London. And then I met the casting director, and she and I took a car up to Hatfield Studios. That's like another 45 minutes or so. And then I waited in this room. And the whole time I'm just thinking, like, I have these, like 2 or 3 lines, and none of them are, it's nothing that you're going to put in an Oscar clip. Like, it's such a functional character. And so it's not something where you can really show, like, if you do it right, no one will notice you. That's the kind of part that is. And so now I'm having to do it, and I have to sparkle somehow. I have to have that X factor. And so I wait.
There are no small parts, Connor. Come on.
They say that, but there are incredibly large parts that hardly do or say anything. And are seen for the briefest of moments on screen. And so I re-auditioned in person for Tom Hanks, and then shortly after it happened, like a minute or two after it happened, I was told that they were going to go another way, and I was out of a job, and then it was a bummer for a while, and then I moved back to New York a couple years later, and I tried to start over as an actor in New York, sort of from scratch, and it didn't work. I couldn't get seen. I couldn't get representation. I was just like, how do you do this?
Was Tom Hanks bad-mouthing you all over town?
No, Tom Hanks forgot about me the second I left the room. Yeah, because he was directing an episode of one of the biggest TV productions ever attempted.
Also,
so I was
Tom Hanks.
I was one of 1,000 decisions he had to make that day for that episode. And he made it, and he moved on. And so then about a decade-ish later, I was a performer at the Upright Citizens Brigade Theater. I wasn't trying to be an actor, but I was like trying to do comedy in New York, and I was enjoying it. And when I would meet people, they would always ask, like, who are you? Where are you from? When you're getting to know people, then this story became like a fun icebreaker. Because I was like, well, I used to be an actor. They're like, well, what happened? I'm like, well, funny story. And so it was like, and then it sort of spread around the improv community because it's very funny to have this guy who's like, Tom Hanks fired him, and he said he had dead eyes. And then a few years ago, there were different podcast networks that, every now and then they'll bring in funny people for a meeting and be like, do you have ideas for podcasts? And I'd always have like 5 or 6, and then I'd have this one at the end. I'd be like, I have this idea for a podcast, and everyone would laugh, and then they kind of be like, nah, it's not really a podcast. And then eventually somebody did agree that it was a good idea for a podcast, and so we made the podcast is like a true crime investigation,
right?
Where I'm trying to get to the bottom of it. We've done 3 seasons. The 3rd season culminates with me talking to Tom Hanks about it.
And he didn't remember. He had no recollection.
He didn't remember, but
he was very nice about it, though, right? He owned up to it. And
what he knew was that it was something that he would have said. Like, that was the thing he owned up to, was like, does that sound like you? And he was like, oh yeah. Like, and he is like a guy who like has talked, he has a book out now, a novel that I am one of the people I was invited to be a part of the audiobook cast of his new novel. His novel is
finally
about,
gave you a gig.
Yeah, not a gig where you can see my eyes.
See your eyes.
You have great eyes for radio.
There's literally a part, because it's a novel. It's like the fictionalized telling of it's called The Making of Another Major Motion Picture Masterpiece. And it's about making a movie. And there's an actor in the movie within the novel, who is fired. And when this actor is introduced, the director's main concern is with his eyes.
Oh my God.
And
a little out the nose.
I don't know. I truly don't know if this is something that's just, this is a fixation, or whether this was influenced by he's writing it while he's aware that this.
I think it's both.
Gotta be influenced.
I think it's both. I think it's a fixation, because if he said, "Oh yeah, someone has dead eyes," I definitely would have said that. That's a fixation.
Mm-hmm.
And then
he said it multiple times.
Clearly. And then secondarily, he also had to have been aware of the podcast by this point.
I am
Vulture. You were on Seth Meyers. Like, you had all, like, the podcast blew up because it's a great work of art. It's like it's a wonderful, like, it's unlike anything else.
Well, thank you.
That's ever been made in podcasting.
I had very talented producers who helped make what would have been, I think, a pretty good but kind of messy podcast into something that I think I always wanted it to be the thing that hooks you in is that mystery, but then ultimately we tell a lot of different stories that are more about how weird it is to be alive and constantly experiencing disappointment and rejection, and specifically in show business. But I think I had the same feelings when I worked in a bookstore that I did when I'm working in show business. You still find yourself dealing with like the same weird frustrations. It's not quite the same thing, but you'll still have like a district manager who come in who basically is like, oh, this is like an executive coming in and saying like, this isn't working about your show.
Task. Yeah.
And you're like, yeah, but you don't know. And they're like, we don't care. We're saying this is how it goes.
Yeah.
Just make it funnier.
Yeah.
Just alphabetized by the second letter of their last name. I don't care what makes sense. Well, Connor, you may have dead eyes, but you've never sounded more alive, and that's what's important.
Thank you.
We do have some comedy to show you. We have a clip. Mariana, I think you have the clip for us.
Yeah.
To tell us about it.
Yeah. So it's Tori Ward, right? And he's a comic, and he's joking about how, she's a comic, and she's joking about how everyone is autistic, which is relatable.
Basically, I've been seeing, I don't know if you're on TikTok, Connor. Are you?
I am.
Okay. I don't know. Maybe this is just what my For You page is telling me, but I get about, you do this too, Mariana, where it's like 1,000 videos a day that are like, do you do these 10 crazy things? Then you must be autistic or have ADHD. And it's like,
put a finger down.
Yeah, put a finger down. If you like, it's every other video is why I'm autistic or why I have ADHD, and I don't know what this trend is, or if it's like just like BetterHelp bought a ton of ads on TikTok. But this comic told a funny joke about it.
Jamie, I feel like that might be saying something. I feel like my algorithm is just cat videos. So maybe maybe you're on.
Which one's more mentally unwell then?
Isn't it crazy how everybody's autistic all of a sudden? Have you guys noticed? Living in Portland, I thought everybody was avoiding eye contact because they're cunts. And I think it's just because they're trying to prove something, I think... Does it seem like maybe everybody got, like, autistic right around the time Black Lives Matter happened? I think it was a coincidence that it was, like, right around the time they were like, white people need to listen. That we were like, yeah, that's easy for a neurotypical person to say.
That's good.
So she took that's classic right there. Is like she went a long way to do an autistic joke, but not an autistic joke. But she was
not about autism.
Borderline offensive for like most of the joke, and then turned it on its head at the end. I thought that's what Connor was saying. I think is like that was 1,000 tickets worth of humor about autism.
That's funny.
Connor, thoughts?
Yeah, because at first. I think that's a great and risky thing when you're willing to like risk people being mad at the first part, and then they're relieved when you land someplace that's not where they expected, because it's also just great comedically, since the surprise is the thing that makes us laugh so much of the time. And some people use that the wrong way because they think, oh, well, I'll put a shock at the end of it, as opposed to like, maybe I'll shock you at the beginning of it, and then you'll be relieved when you find out the joke is about people trying to get away with something. The joke is about like the lengths that people will go to avoid tension or conflict.
Yeah.
And it's very elegant.
And I think I mean, based on the editing, which could just be the editing, but it feels like that buildup is even longer. Like, I think she really presses into the tension in the room before she lets everybody off the hook, which is again what makes that's the making of a great joke. But it could also go terribly wrong.
Yeah. I mean, you couldn't tell this joke to a group of boomers because they have no idea what's going on. But like the Gen Zers were laughing at the beginning, and then the millennials started to catch on, and then the millennials were like, "Oh yeah, okay, I hear you. Like, you're right." But it took a while. You know?
I'm not racist.
I'm not racist.
I think that Gen Z and boomers actually are the two hardest groups to please comedically, but for the opposite reasons. Like, I feel like that I would be really scared to perform in front of like a room of college students and a room of seniors, like senior classes.
That is
seniors at the senior center and seniors in high school.
Yeah. How many rooms are that audience making?
I know, seriously. Well, senior citizens think everything's funny, even though it's not supposed to be, and then Gen Zers think nothing's funny, unless it's like bleak, we're gonna die.
Yeah.
So tough.
To me, the comic. Oh, go ahead, Marianne. I'm sorry.
I was just gonna say, Gen Zers, I feel like they also find everything funny, but in like the other way that boomers find everything funny. Like,
what do you mean?
The memes that I get on Instagram, and it's just like a low res picture of like a piece of bread, and like, and it's like a bunch. It's like stuff like that. That it's like, what is this? Like, who thought to make this? Like, I'll send you guys some stuff later that I like get and I find funny. And it's like literally our brain cells are just like all fried. Like, it's why is
because you were raised on social media as opposed to
yes. I'm not gonna lie, Mariana. Sometimes when I see your close friend story, I gotta go Google it. I gotta do some research because I'm like, this is too deep for me.
Technically, Elena and Jamie are millennials.
Well, we're millennials.
Okay. And
I'm a zebra.
Yeah, I'm at the young end of Gen X.
Yeah, and I'm at the older end of Gen X.
We all laugh at the same things.
Well, so much of what is funny depends on what you think is true or not.
True.
And so it seems like before you even get to the question of agreeing on whether something is funny, like if everyone has a different essential view of the world and a different base reality for how they perceive things, I think that's one of the reasons why funny animal videos are a great uniter, is because if a video of an animal being like a dog or a cat being cute and funny kind of is hard to deny. You have to be a real weirdo to be like, I don't know about this.
Yeah.
Cat videos could save the world, is what you're saying.
It is at least a point of agreement that you can find. Whereas then if you're like, let's talk about this thing that people do, and you're like, what people? Right.
Well, but that does show you how bad the people who now call Twitter home are, because there's now this huge spike in animal torture. We talked about porn being very prevalent on Twitter, but now animal torture is like taken off as a thing on Twitter.
Didn't like the CEO,
which shows you like these people that's that last core of folks.
Yeah.
I don't know about that.
They're not on board with the kittens. Fuck those things.
I feel like that's a very specific type of person to be like, no censorship on Twitter, animal torture. Like, they've been waiting to post their stuff.
And I found out about this because it was in the news, that thing that people read to find out stuff.
Guys, I actually read a newspaper this weekend. Just want to put that in there.
A physical newspaper?
Yeah, guys, I'm not even kidding.
Wow.
I picked it up from the library and I read it.
The library.
That whole sentence doesn't check out for me.
I know, it's great.
That's amazing. I think we do have a game for you to play with us, Connor, if you're down for that.
Yeah.
Paul, do you want to intro?
So we have a Cancel Culture podcast, the Trilogy, and basically I'll give you guys prompts for new films coming out, and you will, 1, title the film, and 2, cast the film, given a few names that I will provide of cancelable celebrities, maybe a politician or two, who's quite fitting.
I don't know. How do we know if we win?
It's not everything's about
Priority
winning.
7.
Senior citizen
Fuck is
Jimmy
this?
Neutron, back off.
Wow. Just
Evan doesn't want to play if he doesn't win.
Evan,
Or at
you
least-
just got flamed. That was crazy.
Yeah, right on live on mic.
By your own daughter, damn.
For the first one, and I'll read it out loud so Evan doesn't have to grab glasses. Oh, yep, there they are. In a land far, 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 far away, Luke Skywalker is zapped into a completely different universe. When a space-time phenomena occurs upon his travels, he's placed on a planet called Evans Ye Air Hay, which is Pig Latin for Evan's hair. A fun little visual for you all. Where he is not himself. He's been placed in an entirely new body. The civilians are broken into two groups, a light side and dark side, as you know. The light side consists of the reptile-like people. There's been no evidence of such attributes, but the dark side insists it's true because of the frog epidemic. The light side thinks they're just deflecting. And so, first off, what's the title of this film?
Give me a minute. I need to process.
Well, I feel like
hop,
Connor
skip,
has
and
an
a jump.
I feel like Connor has an unfair because Connor plays George Lucas in a talk
Oh.
show.
Yeah, I mean, my first thought is Frog One,
Nice.
That's
I like
good.
that.
like Rogue One.
Yes,
Yeah.
no, I got that.
Yeah.
Yes,
Frog,
yes.
F-R-O-G-U-E.
We're with you.
Yeah, Frog One.
So the new Toad,
Mm-hmm.
the lily pad strikes back, and Return of the Warts. All frog-related things.
Yeah.
That is true.
Another possible title, if you want to veer away from a Star Wars specific thing, is just to call it Lookalike.
That's
I like
good.
that.
Okay, lookalike. Let's run
Yeah, I
with
like that.
lookalike.
I like
Yeah, that
lookalike.
one's good. That one's
Who
good.
are our casting options?
So now you're gonna build the board of directors on the dark side. Of course, we have our Darth Vader. We have what the hell is his name?
Jabba the
Wookiee.
Hutt.
Jabba the Hutt.
Jabba the Hutt.
Right.
There it is. A Chewbacca.
Chewbacca.
Made to turn
Yeah.
in this universe, and then the guy.
The guy.
Something.
Emperor
and
Palpatine.
Palpatine,
Come on, Paul.
yeah.
Come on.
Jar Jar Binks, who is not canon.
And sorry, 1 second, I'm moving this cat away from me. And
That's
so
fair.
we have some choices here
That's right.
that'll let you guys.
Oh gosh.
Wait, is Adam Levine canceled? When did Adam Levine get canceled?
He's not
So
canceled. He
I
just
think
cheated
he's
on
just-
his
for the
wife.
listeners, there's this slide with all these characters on it, and then there's a list of names below it, which include Adam Levine, Louis C.K., Ellen DeGeneres, Chris D'Elia, James Charles. I don't know who that is. Ann Coulter and Armie Hammer.
You don't
Who's
Okay,
James
so
Charles?
for the people
Charles?
over 30, James Charles is a beauty YouTuber who kind of got called out on multiple occasions for maybe pedophilia. Is that? I haven't been keeping up recently.
grooming.
For
So is
grooming,
James-
For grooming.
Does James identify as a man or a woman,
man.
or
Okay,
somewhere in
so
between?
I think
Yeah.
James is Jar Jar. Sorry.
Yeah,
James
Sorry.
is Jar
That
Jar.
sounds like James is Jar Jar.
James
I-
is Jar
I'm-
Jar.
I'm gonna go ahead and say Louis C.K. since in that picture Darth Vader already has his lightsaber out and
Yeah.
hasn't
Nice.
like asked at all. Hasn't asked, "Is this okay?"
Right.
That's a good one. That's what I would have
sure.
picked too.
I'm gonna go
I
with Chris D'Elia as Jabba the Hutt.
was gonna say Ann Coulter is
Palpatine.
What's his name?
Chewbacca.
Palpatine.
Chewbacca.
Oh, Chewbacca.
That was
Oh,
my Chewbacca imitation. Ann Coulter is
I was there with
Chewbacca.
you. I got you.
Yeah, because she's a monster. And I just picture that.
But
as
we
what
like
she looks
Chewbacca.
Like.
Chewbacca's a good character. Is Chewbacca
Yeah,
a bad
he's a good
character
guy.
in this bad
I
film?
think and
No.
I mean, the
They're on the
Emperor,
dark
the Emperor has that sort of like skeletal sort
That's
of appearance
true.
that Ann Coulter often has.
She's got the same makeup. Yeah.
I was gonna
Yeah,
say
they-
Chris D'Elia as Chewbacca because they like kind of look the same.
They do.
Mhm.
But again, I feel like I
Typecast.
don't think Chewbacca would have raped young women.
No.
You
this
never
is-
know. He was a barbarian, so
Okay, maybe.
He
Unless-
might have before
And it
he
was
went
the-
to the good side.
It was also the 70s.
Yeah.
Armie Hammer could be.
Well, we're done. We're cast.
Oh,
don't
did we
have any more
cast?
available.
No, wait.
Jabba? Okay.
who was Jabba the Hutt?
Who's Jabba?
Actually, yeah, I said it was gonna be actually Armie Hammer because he Jabba eats anything and Armie is
That's what I was thinking. Armie.
notoriously
go.
supposedly
Eats
a
people.
cannibal.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm.
All right, next.
Ooh.
Nailed
Job.
that. Oh my
Goodness
God.
gracious,
And I
so
Oh,
much
whole
reading.
fucking
Holy
This one got
shit.
away from me.
This is the whole
God.
script.
This one got away from me. I wrote
For the
this.
listeners, there's like 80 pages to this
It's
prompt.
literally a novel.
Wow.
All right, Paul, speed through it.
I enjoyed my time. Well, just prefix to the,
The
where
Ben Shapiro rom-com, apparently.
Yes, Ben Shapiro's casting a new rom-com. It's lighthearted, it's live action, it's not politically motivated, and blah 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 blah. He doesn't want to have to explain why the blue fish is holding hands with the other blue fish to the children. It's far too complicated. But Susie meets John outside a booth titled "Convince Me." Susie is studying journalism, and John is yelling outside the booth. They hit it off, but don't want to ruin the friendship. It's too sinful. After graduation, they don't talk to each other for years, but end up on the same flight to a convention titled "Why I Hate Blue Hair." At this moment, they're both engaged with different people. Mid-convo, nervous John happens to pee his pants and run to the bathroom and comes back, and she's gone.
Gosh.
5 years later, they run into each other outside a bookstore. Both of their marriages fell apart because of their selective moral values. They decide to hang out as friends. Years later, a lot of dragging everything out, blah, 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 many years. John appears outside of a New Year's Eve party. He's been stalking her, but she thinks it's romantic. He declares his love for Susie. The two get married soon after and soon welcome two demon spawns into the world.
Well, why are they demons? So I'm confused. Are these don't seem like bad people? And I mean, I know it's written by Ben Shapiro, so everything is fruit of the poison tree. But beyond that, these characters don't seem hateable in and of themselves. Did I miss something?
The devil lives in the details.
Stalking. Yeah.
So
Wait, I think.
But they
I
get
think it's-
married.
You know what it is? I think it's pretty niche. The booth titled "Convince Me." There's a lot going on there. There's a lot of illusions there.
It's a very
and the
complicated.
type of people.
I feel it. This is more therapy for Paul than anything.
Yeah.
I don't know. I liked this one.
I feel like it could be called like something about how there's those kissing booth movies.
Yeah, you need a
Just
second chance romance.
Oh.
I gotta think.
You've got mail, but it's MALE.
That's good.
Because this reminds me of that plot. What was the Sleepless in Seattle?
I was literally about to say Sleepless in Seattle, but we cast Tom Hanks and then we fire him and say it's because he has dead eyes.
Mm.
That would be about.
Has anybody seen When
about his
Harry
fair
Met
play.
Sally?
Yeah, Harry Met Sally. Yeah.
When Susie met John. When Susie meets John.
When trying to think of what. Are
Too
they're
sinful,
neither of
too
them
late.
is neither of them is white supremacists that we know of, right?
What does
That
that
we
have
don't.
to do with
Again,
the
it's
plot?
written by Ben Shapiro, so I just assume that there's an agenda to it. So I'm trying
Can
to
it just
work.
be called "Ruin the Friendship"? I don't understand how they went from friends to stalkers, but we'll work it out. We'll work out the details of the script.
Yeah.
We'll get there together.
We'll have to workshop it for sure.
Okay,
When-
let's just get
Who's the
straight
cast?
when
Who's the
Maybe the
cast?
cast.
when my Harry met.
Mein Kampf.
Let's get the casting and we'll put a pin in the name. So we have three options.
Oh
for each
my god.
character. For
Oh
John,
my
we have
God.
Kanye West, Marilyn Manson, or Charlie Sheen. For Susie, we have Chrissy Teigen, Amber Heard, or James Franco. He self-taped in a convincing way.
I think Charlie and Amber.
I was just
Look
about to say,
like
I think
Marilyn
Charlie and
Manson.
Amber would be a really unhinged rom-com.
Honestly, I was voting for Charlie. I'm really interested to see James Franco's tape. All about the gender bending, and I feel like that would add.
Just go on Twitter. You can see it. It's
Or are you gonna say
Oh
Marianne?
gosh.
I'm gonna go Marilyn and James Franco.
Why?
Unhinged.
Yeah.
Look
so
like
Marilyn is
Manson.
Susie. Yeah, that's
Yeah.
not bad.
Yeah.
Marilyn Manson in a Ben Shapiro written rom-com screams Oscar to me. I mean, that's an Academy Award. What do you think?
Well,
You seem deep in
Yeah,
thought over there, Connor.
Tell us.
I mean, I'm honestly thinking they need to just make 3 different versions of the movie with the 3 different combos, and release them all on the same day, and you don't know which one you're gonna get.
Right.
Yeah, choose your own adventure.
Yeah.
That's good. I like that a lot.
It's kind of like, or they could shoot like a documentary of the making of all three, but never release the final, like
That's a good one, too.
like Lost in La
Oh my God.
Mancha style.
Or,
Yeah, that's
you
good.
know, like that Black Mirror movie where you like choose.
Yeah,
your
you choose.
destiny?
The
Yes.
Bandersnatch. Yeah.
Yeah. Every time
Yeah,
you
they
choose a different destiny, they switch. Like the actors switch.
They should maybe make every possible combination of casts and never release any of them.
Yeah.
That's even better.
Six Factorial could be the name of the project, and then
Yes.
Oh, that's great. Or like put it in a time capsule and
shoot it into space.
yeah, and just shoot it into the ocean.
Yeah. Okay.
There's
I like
these
that.
there's these reports going around about dinners that Jeffrey Epstein had very much after being convicted for pedophilia and whatever, where
Made
Elon
a movie
Musk,
with Amber Heard and Charlie Sheen.
Elon Musk, Woody Allen, and a whole bunch of other people at the dinners, and I'm just like, Woody Allen should, like, Marilyn, all these people. This actually looks like a Woody Allen cast card, except
Yeah,
it's
it does.
red instead. So he would direct all three. Actually,
Yeah.
him. Who else? Roman Polanski. Is he still alive?
Yes.
And one more. We need one more pedophile. Anyway, just thoughts.
Okay,
One
let me
more
just-
pedophile.
It's
also
all
by
over my bag.
Weinstein.
Yeah. There you go, Mariana. One more pedophile is the name of this movie.
All right.
Do we have one more? Do we
yeah,
have one
we'll-
more movie?
We'll bring it home. In an off-Broadway play version of Indiana Jones, we follow Jim Dale Patrick, a professor at a huge university. He teaches history. It's really just a coloring book. They shade inside the lines. Wields a whip and a sweet hat. He goes on an adventure with his teacher's assistant and student who won't graduate to prove the world is flat. The Holocaust didn't happen, and ED does in fact happen to 3 out of 5 men at some point in their life. His favorite quote is, "It is you, it's not me. Maybe you're just not pretty enough." And we'll move into
What's the title?
Uh,
Off-Broadway play version.
Then
of
you need to
Indiana
come out of the
Jones.
closet. Coming out.
What are the Indiana Jones movies called again?
Raiders of the
Raiders
Lost.
of the Lost Ark.
Raiders of the Lost.
Well, Raiders of the
Ark.
Lost
I
Ark.
think
Lost
actually, I think it'd be
The
Raiders
Temple
of the
of
Lost.
Doom.
Raiders of the Lost Boner.
I said Lost Direction.
Oh, okay. Okay. Either works.
Okay. Temple.
Of Cialis. Was the Crystal Skull was one of them, wasn't it? What was the fifth? There's a fifth one coming soon. No, it's actually, I think it's playing Can right now.
Coming soon, but spelled Cumming.
Coming never.
Raiders of the Lost Ark kind of still, for lack of a better term, stands.
ARC, yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
All right, let's get the casting.
What's
Let's
the
get
cast?
we have to, cast
Chris D'Elia is back.
him, TA, and the student. We have Kevin Spacey.
This is a rough one.
Chris D'Elia, and I thought I'd throw in some fun characters. We got Nick and Rudy Giuliani, and then we got Kanye, he's big right now, so everyone wants him for a role.
Right.
I don't think Nick Fuentes is a big enough star.
He's not gonna get the investors.
He doesn't. Yeah, he's not going to greenlight anything.
Right.
I would go ahead.
I would make Giuliani the professor
I
like
agree.
that.
for sure.
Yeah.
Is the student? Can we go back one just to see the student is? Is there a gender given for the student in the?
There's
Yeah, because I'm thinking back to Giuliani's video sketch that he did with Donald Trump, where he played a blonde woman. Because I kind of could imagine Rudy playing this character and swapping genders for it, because he has a history with that.
I do like
Right.
that.
And it provides a sexual tension within the storyline itself, because I think we want Jim Dale Patrick to be to have we need him to feed off of something, an energy.
Totally. I do think Kevin Spacey would also enjoy the power dynamic of being the teacher. So that
Too much.
both makes me want to cast him and not want to cast him, because I
Right.
don't want him to get his rocks off.
Correct.
On this
Well, I think that
role.
makes him perfect for the TA because he's not really the prof and he hasn't graduated. He's just
Right.
flat earthing.
It's both a punishment and a reward.
Yeah, so I
Yes.
think at that point it makes sense to make Bill Cosby the professor, but again, I think he might enjoy the power dynamic there. So I think giving it to Kanye might be the better way.
Well,
to go.
Kanye
Well, he is God.
believes
so.
in Jews now, though, because the Holocaust now because of Jonah Hill. So I don't know if he'd be
Well,
too
he
into
didn't
denying
say that. He said that he doesn't hate Jews anymore because of Jonah
Right.
Hill. He did not renege his Holocaust sentiments.
it. Okay, so yeah, him as the professor would be good.
Yeah.
He could lean in. He could lean into the research aspect of it.
Yes,
He would enjoy that.
he does
Okay.
love research.
All right.
This
Well-
this seems like it could premiere at Cannes.
Actually, there are some pretty graphic scenes between Kanye and Rudy. So, you
I
know,
think that'd be good. And we call it Yeezys of the Lost Ark.
all right. Well, we all go home a winner.
There you
Do we?
go.
I don't think so.
Wow.
I think we all lose playing this game.
Paul, I'm already home.
There you go.
Don't call it home so fast.
Oh, that's so mean. That's so
Evan.
mean, Evan. Why would you do that?
Remember we talked about timing. Remember at the beginning of this
Oh,
episode
right.
we mentioned
Timing.
You should have a vested interest in her knocking my whole computer down. A vested interest in Mariana staying in the country because
I do.
well, Evan just believes she's still gonna be here, so he's not worried.
I'm not worried about it.
yeah, high beliefs.
We got a year. We're gonna make it happen.
We're gonna
Yeah, we
figure
are.
it out. If nothing else, we'll cast you in one of those movies, and then
Yeah.
Then-
Oh,
they'll have to ask you to
He
stay.
wants to direct
let's
and write.
go.
There you go. Well, Connor, that kind of brings our little manic episode to a close. Do you have any different feelings about cancel culture after experiencing the past hour, or do you are you still riding your same wavelength?
I do feel like that the process of envisioning those movies and then being able to leave that reality, knowing that those will never be made.
It's comforting.
Yeah, well, it's what it does is, it that is the people in decrying cancel culture really undercount how good it feels when there is a just and legitimate cancellation.
Mm.
That it really is just holding people accountable for things at the level that they at least something approaching the appropriate level that they deserve to be held accountable for. Because I also feel like there's people who sort of push back at the idea of it because they're worried that not everything's the same. And I think they don't give people credit that it's like, yeah, no one's saying that everything's the same.
No.
But there are levels. It's like it's like the prizes at the carnival that
Right.
yeah, sometimes there are people who get canceled and it's like a 10 ticket cancellation and you'll be able to work through it. And there are people it's like, nope, that's 1,000 tickets.
Right.
And even for some of those people, they, a lot of the people that were in that list, some of them, they're not canceled by everybody, but part of their process is like you only get to perform. It's true whether you're canceled or not. You only get the audience that likes you, and if people stop liking you, then you have to find an audience that does. And they may not be the people that you want to like you, but that's just the way the world is,
Yeah, that's what you're stuck with. You're stuck riding the rides that you can pay enough tickets for, not the ones that you can't.
Yeah.
That's true. Couldn't have said it better.
I love that.
We have a tagline here that you can make anything funny, you just have to not be an asshole. And I think sometimes people take that to mean asshole and like, oh, you just have to not be a bad person. But I think asshole encompasses like also just stupid behavior. And I think it's really funny. It's really easy to make anything funny. You just have to not be a complete doofus.
And I think you can be an asshole if you do it with love. If you do it in a way where at the core of it,
That's me.
there's a genuine affection, and that it's you're just playing around. Going back to funny animal videos, like sometimes you see the way that like dogs play with each other, and you might look at it and be like, if those were two people, you would be like, oh no, they're killing each other. But that's just how dogs play.
How they
they're
play,
playing.
yeah.
Yeah.
It's kind of like how I treat Paul.
Oh God.
Paul.
I feel like it's not the same, but I do see what you're
I
trying
see
to do
Connor's point. And for that, I appreciate you sharing that with us, Connor. Thank you so much for being here. Is there anything you want to let the people know about? I'm sure your reach is wider than ours, but for those of our listeners who are looking to listen to you
or see you live,
you live.
I perform pretty regularly in New York City in Rat Scraps at Caveat on the Lower East Side. That's most Sunday nights, and you can watch that whether you're in New York or not. There's a live stream that you can buy. The George Lucas Talk Show you can find on our YouTube channel, and if you follow that on social media, we'll let you know when shows are coming. We're actually getting ready to go to the Edinburgh Festival Fringe.
Oh, nice.
We're bringing the we're bringing the George Lucas Talk Show, and we're also bringing a George Lucas Talk Show original play that I have written for myself and Griffin Newman to perform, and we're going to be doing that all month in Edinburgh.
That's going to be crazy. Have you ever played Edinburgh before?
Never have, and so we're bringing
shit. Get ready.
We're bringing 3 shows. We're bringing George Lucas Talk Show. We're bringing The Baron and the Junk Dealer, which is the play, and then I'm going to do a few solo shows that'll just be George Prov, which will just be me improvising solo as retired filmmaker George Lucas.
Epic,
incredible,
and how you'll perform like 30 times over those 30 days, right? Like it's.
The play we'll do like 22 times. I'll do 4 solo shows, and then we do a weekly George Lucas Talk Show. So it's going to be it'll be like 30 shows in
you got to get into shape for Edinburgh. It's literally like a training ritual.
It's going to be pretty wild. Yeah.
Or just bring a lot of cocaine.
And they drink, but then they drink until 4 a.m, and then you got to go do the whole thing the next day. So it's
my God.
It's either going to go really well or it's going to be a fascinating disaster. It's
going to go so well.
You're going to have.
You should make the behind the scenes documentary.
You should.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Connor, for being here. We really appreciate you taking the time. It was a lot of fun.
Cancel Culture Podcast.